Good afternoon. Welcome again. We have Rick Campbell with us, and this afternoon we are going to talk about social media. Um, what are the policies? What are the main aspects? All the information you need to understand and have in order to have the greatest product for your customers and to engage them into your business. So, welcome, Rick. Welcome, George. We would like to speak a little bit about your presentation and then you will be owner of your panel and the screen. Welcome.
Yes, Rick. Social media now is very big among young and old people, mostly young. So, how is the industry going to contact all of them right now? Do you have you're going to be talking about a policy of social media, but well, you're going to tell us about it.
Yes, yes. In the casino industry, and of course with just any business, you have policies put in place that are guidelines for how you will conduct your business. And with social media as big and robust as it has become, and all the different channels you have, you need to have guidelines for your social media as well. And again, it's how are you going to interact with your customers, how your employees are going to interact with your customers on social media, and what is your brand going to be identified as is through your social media channels. So it's one of the reasons why you got to have a policy in place to fulfill those guidelines as well. I think the first thing to really speak about is what is the social media policy. And if you'd like, I can go to the presentation of the policy in place. It's a guideline for your employees. And if you can go to the slide 2, that'd be great. So the guidelines of what you're needing to produce for your employees, of what their content is going to be as either they're part of their job or as a private person. One of the things to think about, though, with that policy and those guidelines is that it's not particularly saying that your employees can't post on social media, but if they're going to be actually taking on your business, bringing on your brand, your casino identity, and they're going to be speaking in behalf of that, then you need to have guidelines on what they're actually going to be speaking on and giving them some outlines on how they want to interact with the public. It's the directive of basically your brand. Most casinos and most businesses have a brand policy, so you want to stick with what logos, what visuals, such as photos and videos, are going to be able to be produced and posted on those social media channels. And again, when we talk about social media channels, we know we're talking about a very broad subject when you look at everything that any public can interact with online with the social media channel. So if you can go to slide 3, you know what a social media policy is, but why should you have a social media policy? In any policy, it's if this happens, you have to interact and do that. But we know with social media, it's an ever-changing environment, both the channels and both the way the interaction is with the public. You have to be able to see how your staff is going to be able to handle them. And again, each social media channel is different. Each channel actually has a different relationship with the public. So you want to make sure that what you have in your policy is relating to those changes. Again, social media, as we've seen, the advent of TikTok and Instagram all of a sudden just popped up. These channels pop up, the public interacts with them, and you want to be able to engage with those channels, but able to do it within the guidelines of what you're putting out there for your casino. So if you can go to slide 4, who needs to be involved with creating your social media policy? You may have someone at your casino or at your business that is responsible for social media, but that one person can not only be the only person that writes the social media policy. It has to be a team approach, and that means you have to get everyone involved, including and mostly importantly is your department heads, such as your CEO, your general manager, especially your HR director, because you are dealing with the employees that are interacting with social media. Your marketing director has to be involved because social media has to be a part of your marketing plan. And there might be a possibility you might outsource this your social media to a third party, such as a marketing agency or a social media agency. But they have to have a complete understanding, along with your business, of what your what you're trying to goals are for your social media plan, and then part of understanding your brand as well. You might also have a crisis management team. I know that this also becomes part of a lot of properties and a lot of casinos and businesses that do not have a crisis management team. But you want to have someone and a group of people that are a team of your casino that know how to handle any crisis. Um, and social media is the way to actually address the crises, such as we hate to say that these things happen, but if there is a gun threat or a violent or a bomb threat or some kind of threat to your business, you want to have a crisis management team in place to be able to engage with those threats and be able to put those threats aside, but use your social media channels to be able to address these threats. And that social media policy has to also include how you're going to handle those. And then when you have your crisis management team or your social media policy in place and your social media team, does everyone at the property know who those people are? Because again, these interactions are coming from all directions of the business. That everyone needs to know who that the people are on that team to be able to send those information to that team to be able to address it and put it out on social media. So that has to be involved with part of your social media policy. With slide 5, you want to know how to begin a social media policy. When you are beginning your social policy, focus on creating the culture. Make sure you're sharing ideas. Make sure it's a problem solving, that you know that when a problem exists, or as I mentioned earlier, a threat, that part of the policy is addressing those and understanding how to solve the problems and do it through your social media channels. We know that there's people out there that do a lot of comments that may be derogatory about your business, may not be shedding the best light on your business. You want to be able to know how to address those. I know a lot of casino properties that have gone and thought if they just deleted the bad comments or deleted the bad reviews of their business, that they would just go away. But it doesn't. With social media, it keeps constantly being talked about. Social media keeps wanting to engage, and the public keeps wanting to engage. You have to engage and address the problems and address the situations and know how to resolve those situations and use that into your policy. Make sure that when they are being addressed, that your policy states not to just delete bad reviews and bad comments, but to actually address them and engage with the public and know that you are addressing them. The other way to start your social media policy is to schedule your meetings. I know, again, we see a lot of people saying, or a lot of businesses that say, oh, I got this person that's in charge of social media. They're going to handle it. But it's not that way. That the team has to get to where they're actually scheduling the meetings. And then when you're having meetings about your social media, again, addressing all channels and all networks, specify what's going to be covered in the meetings. Make sure you bullet point the topics and make sure they're being addressed, and make sure that there's follow up and actionable items to know how to address them. This goes with any policy that's any casino, but specifically with social media, because with social media, again, it's an ever changing environment that you have to be able to address these changes and go through them. And how far in advance do you plan your social media? You know, there's a lot of your marketing plan usually is put in place for a 6 to 12 month period. Your social media plan should also be able to face that and be able to know how far in advance you want to plan for your social media. That also goes for the meetings. The meetings, are they monthly? Are they going to be every 3 months, every 6 months, every 12 months? You've got to be able to gauge how often you need to be able to meet and how often you need to be able to address your plan as it's being put in place. And this gets put into your policy for that reason. Then how is success evaluated? How many engagements are you interacting with? How many followers or connections do you have on your social media channels? Is just because you might have thousands and thousands of followers doesn't mean they're particularly a customer of yours. That could be the fact that you're looking at people that just want to look at your business, and we call them looky-loos, that just want to look at what you're doing. But when you're trying to actually engage with your players and engage with your customers, you want to see how many of those followers you can actually turn into customers, whether it be online gaming or brick and mortar and coming into the casino. How much are you actually engaging to bring those people that are your followers and connections into your property from your social media channels? So always set up benchmarks of what your goals should be. And then after you have set your benchmarks, how are you going to gauge those goals, and how are you going to gauge what the next side of success may be from those goals? If you can go to the next slide, please. As we know, we got you got to separate your policies from site-specific guidelines. We know that Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Yelp and TripAdvisor, all of the social media channels where the public can engage with you, they each have their own site-specific guidelines. But you want your policy not to just incorporate some of their guidelines, but make them specific for your business and for your casino. One is who does what and what in their roles. So you have a team, as we just talked about, developing a social media team. But what is the roles and responsibility of that team? Who is the one that gets contacted for maybe the crisis side, or who gets contacted for the promotional side, and who does the engagements inside of the social media channels? Again, you may have a social media person that's part of your staff, and they may do the actual writing, but who is actually bringing the content to those people? Some properties you have the food and beverage department, and you have the slot department, and you have the table games department. But who is bringing the information into the social media person that's going to be putting it out on making the postings out on social media? So you got to find out what those roles and responsibilities are and make sure you define them. And then in your policy, you need to have the specific guidelines of what they can and can't do via legal compliance. We know that there's certain legal compliance laws out there, such as HIPAA. So you can't put out basic information of your players, of course, and some of it is very sensitive information, such as financial and things like that you cannot post. Also, the branding guide. What logos are you able to use? What photos can you use of inside the property? A lot of people are going around with their cell phones now, and you can take a photo and post it out there. But a lot of people don't realize too that there's some digital footprint that gets left behind with those photos, such as the location and date and time that gets tagged into those photos, and you got to make sure that that is not outside of the branding and compliance of your policy. Make sure that if people are posting those photos, that they're posting them within your boundaries of your policy. Why we do it at all, the purpose and value of the policy. Basically state, what is the goals, and basically put those into perspective so that everybody understands them, and there's an actual understanding between the team and everyone, all the way down to your casino floor people. Anyone that's that's an employee of the casino understands what is the value of social media and how it's actually helping mold into your marketing plan. And then define your social media channels. There are, again, so many networks and so many channels out there, but which ones are really engaging for your casino, and which ones are really the ones you want to incorporate into your plan, and then have the policy built around that. We know that any site can express an opinion about your business, but some of them are a one-way street and is more of an advertising channel for your business than it is actually an engagement. And if it's not an engagement, then it's not really shouldn't be considered into your social media or your social media policy. So the next slide basically is stating don't reinvent the wheel. So in not reinventing the wheel, you're looking at you have internal policies, but does your internal policies also apply to social media activity? We know that there's some guidelines with some of the HR departments of how businesses can or employees should act while they're at work and plus while they're away from work. Again, we know that employees shouldn't be going out and talking about sensitive information such as financials and things like that while they're hanging out with their friends. That's part of the also policy inside of your casino. It should also be applied to social media, that just because they've interacted with their friends, it's like the same thing as interacting in social media. Those things do not apply, or that same policy applies to your social media activity. We also know that you have employees that can't take pictures of customers playing on slot machines and looking at taking pictures of bets on tables. Again, that's an internal policy that's incorporated throughout the property. It should also be applied to your social media, that people cannot be taking pictures and posted in social media. So when you're looking at building your policy and you have these internal policies, make sure you're incorporating those same policies or references back into your social media policy that are good for the property itself and the business in itself. Also, we have a lot of casinos, and we've seen this a lot lately here over the past couple of years of people wanting to take pictures of winners and saying, "Look, this person just won a big jackpot at this slot machine," and they want to take a picture and be able to post it saying, "Look, we have winners here at the casino." But we know there's also a consent form. We also got to get the consent of the winner to be able to make those announcements, whether it be in news channels or in marketing forms. It also has to apply into your social media. It seems to be a quick reaction these days with everybody having cell phones to be able to take a picture of a winner or somebody that's just won and is excited. But did you get the consent of that winner to be able to post that person or post that machine winning? You got to make sure that all of these guidelines that you have internally are also into your social media, that they can't just be put out on social media channels without the same consent that what you have on your casino property. If you can go to the next slide, please. Back to what I just mentioned just a little bit ago of including external regulations. Most legal regulations are in effect online nowadays, and not just offline. You have Fair Employment Acts, you have HIPAA, all of those legal regulations that were basically prior to social media and still are true to this day, regulations that happen in your casino have to be a part of your social media as well. You cannot be putting out past that regulation just because of social media. It has to be included into your social media policies and make sure that they're still maintained. You also have privacy and confidentiality, branding. All these policies need to be included in your social media. Privacy, for example, is that whatever people post out there is being keeping into their privacy, that you're not calling out a player or a customer or even someone that's posting onto your social media sites, that you're not taking away their privacy. The branding policies, as I keep mentioning over and over, and I can't emphasize enough, is making sure that you're staying within the branding guidelines of your business, that the logos, the colors, everything of your social media postings are staying within those branding guidelines. We see that on Facebook you have a header image, but I've seen a lot of times that the header image does not actually fit in with the brand of the casino. Make sure that all of those things are staying in place. They all need to be included. All of those policies need to be included into your social media policy. So when you look at social media, and as we were just talking from an employee standpoint and also from the public, excuse me, you want to try to create two social media policies. One of them is for your employees and your staff, their job-related activities. What are the roles, responsibilities, the expectations, the guidelines between your employees posting on social media and maybe posting on your behalf or as a representative of your business, and how they should be able to do that. And these should provide the guidelines in their social media policy. The policy number two is the sensitive information, is basically for your public, of knowing that they cannot take business photos from you and post them somewhere else, or take, now don't get me wrong, we'd like to see them actually promote your business, but also we don't want to see them taking your photos from your postings or your logos and use them in another bad context. Because these days with social media, you can actually, download information, you can download customer photos, and you can move them along to another social media site. But you got to have a policy in place that says what is right and what's wrong for people to move information from you to other social media channels, because again, they could actually put this in a bad light, or actually against the business, that would actually maybe even turn into illegal activities of using your photos and things that you've posted out there. So it's better to actually have this in a policy, so you can make sure that both on the employee side on their policy and a public policy is utilized, so that they understand what the guidelines are of your social media channels. And last here, don't let your social media policy collect dust. This is very important. As we've seen in the past, we've seen social media policies being created and then basically pushed off to the side. Hey, we created one because we were told we were supposed to, and then it gets pushed off to the side. Because the cyber world is ever changing and social media is always changing, your policies need to be changing. Your policies need to be reviewed at a minimum of every 6 months, because we know there's always a new channel out there or some form of interaction on social media that's changing, that needs to be reviewed. Make sure your policies stay in place, and make sure that you're within the guidelines of some of the new guidelines that come out from social media channels themselves. So make sure that you're staying within those guidelines. The next is ask yourself in your social media policy, is the information still relevant? Are there any new legal updates to some of the social media channels? And then again, how has the environment changed? Some of the new interactions that we even saw with prime example with Facebook and their messaging application. Inside their messaging, they were able to add new ways to communicate. Well, are those new ways of communication viable to your business, and do they still fit with inside your social media policy? Remember, though, that policies are developed that can support and empower and engage your staff, your employees, and engage your customers. They're not there to hinder the communication. They're not there to restrict the communication. They're there just to follow guidelines, and that policy needs to be in place to make sure that everyone's aware of those guidelines.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Yes.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for the information, Rick. It was great to hear you. What, we know a little thing about creating culture on social media. Uh, well, 2 years ago, it was totally different than now that we have this COVID thing. And what would be the difference on creating culture now than it was 2 years ago?
Well, I think the thing is you're going to see more engagement. You're going to see more interaction with your customers using social media channels. Before, I always saw it as a lot of the public would um, go and go to social media to basically see what the specials were. And it seemed at the time that a lot of casinos were actually using social media as advertising. I think that the process has really come forward quite a bit on understanding that it's an interaction, it's an engagement with your customer and with your public. It's not a way just to advertise that we're having a food special or a hotel special, or hey, we're having a slot tournament. It's a way to actually interact with the customer. Um, and I think the process is now coming more and more into that culture of being able to talk with the customers more through social media and engage with them more than it is just trying to throw an ad out there or information.
That was very interesting, Rick. Actually, I do appreciate your question. That was an important point to remark to our Latin American audience. Rick, of course, is one of the experts in the gaming mecca in Las Vegas, and some of his comments and ideas should be transported to our Latin America culture, of course. No, we need to adapt according our jurisdictions, according the customers' uses, and of course, something that amazed me that you already told is that every 6 months we need to review the policy. So that's really fast to be changing and changing really fast, because actually, well, this 21st century is sending us new platforms, new ways of contact and communication. So we need to be very updated and used to this change. So just to finalize, Rick, and I would like to ask you just to be a little bit more profound. Why don't we need to reinvent the wheel? We must follow what Vegas is doing, or will you suggest us to customize each policy according your country, your language, or your customer preference?
I completely agree. The you know in the reinventing the wheel is understanding that you should have some basic policies in place. The way you're expecting your employees and you're expecting your customers to interact with your employees. Use some of those guidelines to outline the social media policy itself. But like you said, is depending on the location, the culture, that also needs to take into play, because you might have some other legal compliances or other compliances that you need to have in place that need to be incorporated into your social media policy based on your location and your culture as well.
That's correct. Jurisdictions has some bans, and we need to be careful of that, no? Okay. Well, I don't know, George, you have any other question? Are we okay?
I
Can
really
we Okay,
loved all
so Rick, thank you very much. That was wonderful, really. We had you yesterday. Now we have you here with this great information. Hopefully, you can join us more often, so our customers here in Latin America start knowing you better. And of course, you will have the contact of your number, your email, webpage here below, so customers could be in touch with you as soon as they need any consultancy, any help from you. You are one of the main experts in Vegas. So thank you for being with us and fixing your agenda to share with CES 2021. Hope to see you all in Dominican Republic next November, and stay well. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity. I really do. And it's been a pleasure, even though we've gone through the technical difficulties today. I'm glad we finally got through everything today. But yeah, anytime. And if you ever need anything as far as other sessions or anything like that, always feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you
Much
very much, Ricky. It
appreciated.
was an honor to have you here.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.